Welcome everyone, friends of First of all species. We're back with another episode of Roman's Christmas. Now it's Christmas Day, and there was an attempted murder. Anzox is still alive, technically, but we don't know if he will survive the ladder hit to the back of the head. Which, I liked him. He was weird and kind of all over the place, but I liked him. So, I'm hoping he survives. Anyway, we have all our clues. We did through the investigation. We sniffed everywhere. We sniffed and snorfed. So we're gonna go and we're gonna do this trial. After a thorough search, I asked everyone to come to the attic for the trial. If Anzox wakes up during the process, maybe I can solve the case more quickly. This time, Anzox won't jump in with some strange theory to influence my conclusion when I have no idea. Aww. Although that was one of my wishes, I didn't want it to happen this way at all. I sat on the edge of Anzox's bed, waiting for everyone to gather in the attic. Elegant climbed up lightly, so light that I didn't even notice her. This place, it may become problematic if we try to fit everyone up here. Let Anzox listen to the process, although I don't know if he can hear it. It would be courteous if you woke up at an opportune moment. Anna's footsteps thumped heavily on the ladder. Can't we just discuss it in the hall? And maybe we can talk while eating. I don't think you can focus on the case while smelling stew. Everyone came upstairs to the attic, which made the already small room become even more crowded. The wooden floor under our feet seemed to settle a little, and a sharp frictional creaking was produced when anyone moved. I started to think it was a bad idea to put 11 people up in the attic. Peter sat next to Sayin and bowed his head without saying a word, as if her was trying to curl up beside him. Lunatic Turk stole his hand and looked at me. Just like before, let's try to keep things as simple and clear as possible, no overcomplicating things. If this really was just an accident, there's no need to assume that there's a murder among us. So, was Anzox's injury an accident, or was it deliberately set up? Is it possible he was unable to operate the ladder and accidentally broke the handle?
Impossible!
Damn. Are you sure?
He slept in the attic every time he comes here. Nothing has ever happened to him when he went up or down. It's quite impossible for him to make such a mistake.
Well, you have known him for a long time after all. Damn.
Who won't kill Anzox? I don't remember if he got any enemies. Besides, most of us here have only known him for merely a day. Is that all someone needs to kill?
Let's put motive aside. I can't figure it out either.
Is that so?
I want to find those who are able to commit a crime first. Is it possible that the handle was stressed already, and it was about to break anyway? If so, Anzox is just unlucky enough to trigger it.
Impossible!
Man, he is just going right at her. Why?
The
hand is strong enough to bear the weight of the ladder.
That's right. I had investigated this handle thoroughly. Why was the handle not likely to break soon? The splinter was blunt. There are no color depositions on the splinter. The wooden handle was bent down. The rope pulls up the ladder. The rope tangled on the handle. I think, because they were talking about the different coloring of the handles of the handle. Sayin is right. If the load was too great, then the handle would have shown damage before now. But the cracks on the handle are new, and there's no sign of age in the wood. So I don't think it was accidental.
Indeed, it was Roman.
By the way, I felt strange when I retrieved my rosary. It was neither in Anzox's hands nor present under him, but on his back. On his back? Yeah, why didn't you tell me something that important earlier? I just remembered it. In short, it seems there are a lot of details that cannot be explained right now. Let's rule out whoever couldn't have tampered with the ladder. The first people we can exclude are... Who can be excluded? Those who stayed downstairs today. Anyone who hasn't been upstairs today. So the main suspects now are Thrivey, Vincel, and myself. First, let's ask them one by one.
How do you ask yourself?
A mirror? I'll just confess when it's my turn.
Very well, you first, please.
We'll go in order. Thrivey, what were you doing when the accident happened?
I was
Thrivey gestured with both hands in the air.
waiting for her to finish praying.
Ah?
Didn't everyone do this at the time of the accident?
What did you do upstairs this morning?
Let me think. I went upstairs to the attic to get my book on my bedside. When I went downstairs, I tried to pull the ladder up but failed. So I went downstairs to call Roman for help.
Damn, that makes me seem suspicious. Need to do something to direct the suspicion to the real murderer. Something smells fishy. Maybe I'll press harder for further information. To ask. Bedside book? The book on the bed?
The one with the cover you can't read. Although I think it has nothing to do with the case.
Failed to pull up the ladder? Why did you fail to put away the ladder?
You do realize the ladder weighs more than I do, right? How can I...
Ask her. Why did you call me to help lift the ladder at that time?
I happened to meet you on my way down.
In other words, if you happened to meet someone else, you would have asked them to help you?
That's correct.
Okay. Please add what you just mentioned to your testimony.
Very well.
Please testify again.
I went upstairs to the attic to get my book on the bedside, the thick one. I was so light that I couldn't move it. I saw Roman at the entrance of the stairs and I went downstairs and I asked him to help.
So he just happened to meet me and I didn't know in advance that he had a chance to?
Are you sure?
Eh? Eh? Why were you standing at the staircase if you didn't want to go upstairs? I didn't intend to go up, but I didn't intend to break the ladder. On the contrary, I could prove that I had no chance to tamper with the ladder. What is the reason I couldn't have sabotaged the ladder? I didn't have the time. I just stayed upstairs for a little while, which meant I didn't have enough time to sabotage the ladder.
If I remember correctly, Thrivey and Vincel stayed up only for a short time. This point is not convincing. Master Vincel, would you care to testify?
Vincel tightened his gloves and adjusted his tie.
Of course.
I didn't stay upstairs long, so I had no chance to do anything to the ladder. I didn't even notice the ladder. Come to think about it, if I had observed the ladder that time carefully, I might have found traces left by Mr. Detective.
This bitch!
I'm gonna fight you right now. Please don't speculate when you testify.
Besides, Anzox and I don't know each other. Why would I harm him? And it was not I who asked for the rosary.
Something smells fishy. Maybe I'll press harder to ask. Short time upstairs. How long did you stay upstairs?
Probably from the time that throwing darts was proposed to the time that the dart game was ready to start.
Didn't notice the ladder? You didn't notice the ladder, really?
Yeah, the ladder was not on the corridor like it is now. How could I notice it?
Wild guess. You implied that I am the murderer. what do you want to do? Don't talk at me because of this, Mr. Detective. Avenging personal wrongs in the name of public interest is a violation of the law. You don't know each other? You and Anzox really haven't met each other before? Why would I lie? The taverns I frequent aren't quite as low. Vincel glanced at the annoyed Sarin who beside him and shut his mouth. Rosary? Why did you mention the rosary? Was as strange as how a mess happened because Harren was going upstairs to get the rosary. Stop. Add what you mentioned to your testimony. Absolutely. Please testify again. I was upstairs from the time the dart game was proposed until the darts were ready. So I didn't have much time to fiddle with the ladder. The ladder was stored in the attic and I didn't notice it at all. Come to think of it, if I hadn't observed the ladder at that time carefully, I might have found traces left by Mr. Detective. Strike that last sentence. I haven't met the Red Dragon before, and he was here for just a brief acquaintance. I have no motivation to murder him. It was Harren who mentioned the rosary. It was none of my business. All suspects have been questioned now. There seems to be nothing wrong. But after hearing their testimonies, I want to add another suspect. Have I not confirmed that the rest of them have not gone upstairs? Unnecessarily suspects should be ruled out. Sean wasn't on the list at first yesterday, but eventually. So who are you talking about? I would say Harren. I was thinking it was Harren. I think so. As the owner of the rosary, do you have anything to explain? Is there something to explain? For example, did you go upstairs during the day? Why was the rosary not with you? Why did you pray before the meals today? And tell me anything you think was strange. Okay. I have been downstairs all day, and I believe everyone can testify to that. I left my rosary in the room, so I had to go upstairs temporarily today. What's wrong with playing before meals? Speaking of something strange, the door to my room was locked. Does that count? Something smells fishy. Okay, so always downstairs. Did you go upstairs today even once? Everyone saw me, of course not. Regarding the rosary, I would like to ask a question. What of the rosary? On a Nox. Why was the rosary on a Nox when an incident could occur? How should I know? Why did you pick it up? I didn't think about it. I thought it was my stuff. Prayer before meal? Why did you pray before the meal today? Seems strange. I have prayed before every meal. Is that a problem? Door was locked? Why was your door locked? Why was your door being locked strange? Don't you know? I never locked the door. What? I believe in God physically and mentally. I believe that God can protect me from all calamities. So, I think Vincel went upstairs with the keys. Because I mentioned I noticed him and the keys disappearing. I went to his room, and whenever they left his room, he went into the room, took the rosary. He brought the rosary upstairs. Or something. Maybe he brought it upstairs, put it in the room, locked the door, assuming that it would be locked, maybe. Then Anzox came upstairs. No. So Vincel. I know I'm on the right track. I know it. So the door was unlocked when you left the room today? Absolutely. That was... Let me write it down. Please add what you've mentioned to your testimony. I shall. Please testify again. I hadn't gone upstairs today, and everyone can testify to that. I left my rosary in my room, so I had to go upstairs. As for how it got on the Nox, I had no idea. I have prayed before every meal. It's common, though I didn't do so openly out of respect for sayin. I didn't lock my door, but I found that my door was locked after the accident today. I really don't understand why. There's something obviously wrong. What evidence contradicts Heron's testimony? It was the first prayer before meal these days. Wait! Oh wow. Did you say you pray before meals every day? Yes, is there anything wrong with that? But this was the first time since you've got here that you prayed before a meal. Therefore, maybe I remembered it wrong. But what does that have to do with the case? Although I'm not sure whether this is related to the case, I hope you can recall why today you suddenly remembered praying before meals. Very well. Usually whenever there is a chance, I pray before meals. In the past few days, to respect the sensibilities of the tavern's owner, I did not mention praying before meals. Today is Christmas, and I thought that it made sense to have a short pre-meal prayer on this particular holiday. Besides, there are others who asked me to do so. Something smells fishy. Maybe I'll press harder for more information. Usual prayer? What do you mean it's normal? That means when I was in the monastery... Sarin's choice? What do you mean out of respect for Sarin? It seems that he is not so passionate about faith. So you didn't forget to pray these days, but rather dared not. Maybe you can say that. Heron looked to the side and his voice grew quieter. Christmas prayer should be normal. Yes. So you were the first one who thought about praying? I was about to say. Others. Wait, did anyone else want you to do this? Yes. Why didn't you say so earlier? How should I know? Is it important? Of course, it's very likely that whoever proposed it is the criminal. That does not mean it was. The hyena just wanted us to believe that he initiated the prayer, but now he was stunned. It was Vincent. What? Wait a minute. Didn't you propose to pray before the meal? I'm trying to remember who said it. Who proposed to praying before the meal? Vincent did. Right here. Heron suggested we pray. Okay. Vincent said the prayer before the meal was Heron's own proposal. It wasn't me. That's what he said, so he'd be acquitted and frame me. I turned to look at the links. Do you have anything to say, Vincent? I indeed reminded Heron to pray, but what do you think that means I would murder someone? If I wanted to kill Nox, why didn't I just let Nox go upstairs and help me pick something up? Why would I bother to remind Heron to pray before the meal? What if he went upstairs by himself? Impossible. Anyone who has been in the tavern these days will find out. You can use Heron to get a Nox. What? Why? How could he use Heron to get a Nox into the trap? Because Heron was being an ass to him and bossing him around all day, right? For the past few days, Heron has often called a Nox and asked him to do things for him, like pouring him drinks and taking a spoon. So it's natural for him to get the rosary upstairs. because the murderer took advantage of Anzox's tendency to help Heron and used it to set up a trigger for the trap. And who amongst us do you think is most familiar with traps, alibis, and crimes of these sorts? You, my good detective. I will curb stomp your fucking furry ass. And is it not true that Tomcat over there is also suspicious? Oh, Elegant is about to— oh, yeah. Elegant flexed her paws quietly, her claws sliding out. Therefore, if the murderer used a trap to kill someone, I assume only Roman can do it. That's true, I do know these things because of my profession. But I'm sure that everyone in this room, even Nox, can come up with one or two simple traps like that. Only 3 things are needed to make the trap in this case. The wood handle, the rosary, and the key to Heron's room. Let's start with the wooden handle. Wood handle is broken downwards. The handle was broken downwards. After breaking the handle, the suspect inserted the handle back into the slot. Is there any evidence to support your theory? It's pure speculation. It's not, because what can prove that the suspect inserted the handle back in? The ropes tangled on the handle. The rope pulls up the ladder. The wooden handle was bent down. There are no colored— the splinter was blunt, because the splinters were broken. After the suspect broke the handle, he inserted it back into the direction of the splinters and pressed it tightly. This way, the friction between the splinters would cause the handle to get stuck there. If he properly adjusted the handle, it would support the wooden ladder, but when someone wanted to lower the ladder and started to untie the rope, the handle would come loose and the ladder would fall unexpectedly from overhead. In the process of reinserting the handle back in and loosening it, it is inevitable to break a few splinters. So the suspect should have done just that. That sounds reasonable, but it still brings us no closer to identifying the suspect. Then there's the rosary. When we found Anzox, the rosary was on his back, and he was knocked down by a ladder that suddenly fell. That shows that— where was the rosary? So it must have been on the ladder, right? So like, he looked up and went to get it and it fell, the ladder fell, so then the thing fell on him because his face went down. So I think it was on the ladder somewhere. It shows that the rosary was on the ladder. If Anzox saw what he was looking for on the ladder, it's natural for him to lower the ladder. Then the ladder fell on Anzox and the rosary hanging on the ladder would fall on his back. But why did Anzox check the ladder? If he were looking for the rosary, he would have definitely not looked there. He would only find it in Heron's room. The door was locked, so he couldn't get in, and he probably looked up. He looked up for the spare key in the other room, right? Because Heron's room was locked. Anzox couldn't open the door, and then he turned to go downstairs to ask Heron for the key. He saw the rosary hanging on the ladder. He would naturally reach out to pull the twine wrapped around the handle, trying to lower the ladder to get the rosary. That just triggered the trap set up by the criminal. The next is Heron's key. Thanks to Heron's testimony, we now know that his room is generally unlocked. His key was on the nightstand and he hadn't removed it. According to Sarin, there are 2 keys to each room in the tavern, and the second key was— where was the second key? Sarin's keychain. Was on the keychain that Sarin usually carries with him.
By the way, it seems like my keys disappeared for a while this morning. At first I thought I was confused, but now it seems like that may be the murderer took my keychain.
When did you find out that the keychain was missing?
I put it on the counter and went down to the cellar. When I returned, it was gone.
When did you rediscover it?
After playing around at darts, I found it on the counter.
In this game, there was enough In this case, there was enough time for the murderer to bring the keychain upstairs, lock the door, then return.
In other words, the killer should be someone who approached the counter while Sarin entered the cellar and went upstairs while the keychain was lost. When the key reappeared, the killer should also be near the counter.
Quick Q&A. Oh. Weapon. The weapon is... What is the weapon? The ladder. The weapon is the ladder. Anzox was hit by the ladder. The wound can support this assumption. Besides, the murderer could hardly perform the trick in front of everyone else. Method. Let's talk about how this happened. Okay, 1. The suspect Taran's keychains. The suspect took the rosary. The suspect put the rosary on the ladder. The suspect broke the handle, then plugged it back. And then the suspect reminded Heron about praying. Place the bet. This is the sequence of events. Suspect. I think the murderer is... Who's the murderer? Vincel. It's Vincel. Why are you always against me? I'm not taking it personally. I've got vital proof that you are the murderer. What evidence do you have? I went upstairs right before you and the handle was in perfect shape. Who else could it be? And the motive. When it comes to the motivation...
Can it be like what happened with Sean and Kane? They knew each other before and separated because of conflict?
I think it's impossible. Firstly, they rarely communicated today. I don't think they would keep their countenance if they met before. Secondly, if Anzox owed Vincel something, and Vincel wanted to murder him, Anzox should at least take precautions. In a nutshell, I think Vincel's real motivation is... He's a random murderer, his target was someone... Got the goods on him, his target was someone else. Maybe his target wasn't Anzox, but someone else. So obviously we can't find the motivation from Anzox. I overestimated our famous detective, Roman. Wait, what are you talking about? My target was definitive from the beginning. It was Anzox. Wait, you're admitting it? Wait, pardon? My only target is Anzox. I didn't expect that you will admit it so quick. Vincel clenched his fists and let out an angry gurgling in his throat. Okay, I lose. It was me, Heron, and Anzox. I have to admit that you are so gentleman when you plead your guilt. Then, would you like to tell us your motivation? Anyway, you already confessed to your crime. No, thanks. Okay, though I am curious, I guess we have to continue. Okay, then. Although the motivation is not clear at all, now that the Lynx has pleaded guilty, let's start to summarize the case. In other words... Case Billyback. Vincel had started his trap in the morning. In the morning, Sarin explained the situation to us and suggested that everyone try to stay together in the hall and only leave the room one at a time. While this would avoid incidents between two people, it also gave Vincel the chance he needed. Utilizing the rule that only one person could go upstairs at a time, he had enough time to set the trap without worrying about being caught. It was suspicious to let Anzox go upstairs to trigger the mechanism directly. Fortunately, Vincel knew that someone could order Anzox around. Namely, Heron. Vincel took something from the counter while Sarin was busy in the cellar. That was... keychain. The tavern's keychain. He took the keys that Sarin had removed from his waist and left them on the counter. Then he went upstairs to open the ladder door, took the rosary from Heron's room, and hung it from the ladder. But Vincel made a mistake. He didn't know that Heron never locked his door, so when he came out, he locked the door like everyone else. He broke the handle of the ladder and inserted it back in place and went back to stairs. Until dinner, no one went upstairs to trigger the trap, and Vincel's plot was more than half successful. I love how Heron looks in the picture. I love that. At dinner, once Vincel reminded Heron to pray before dinner, Heron asked Nox to go upstairs. And Nox went upstairs and found the door locked and looked around. Seeing the rosary hanging on the ladder, he naturally reached out to undo the twine around the handle. The rope came loose with the handle, and the ladder fell down the guideway, hitting Nox. This is your plot, Vincel, am I right? The lynx kept his eyes wide open and pulled the gloves back and forth, his sweat dripping down from the ends of the fur. Right, you win. So what do you intend to do with me?
We will bring you to justice, of course.
Sayin picked up a length of twine, caught Vincel from behind, and tied his hands. Just hurting someone isn't a capital crime, don't you know that? But you tried to, and did Nox die during this?
Shut up.
Oh, not so hard. Be gentle with my wrist.
You are no longer a guest now. You are a dangerous criminal who endangered the safeties of my guests. Why should I treat you gently?
Vincel glared at me, trying to get rid of the rope that bound his hands behind him. Untie me, you wretched son of a... Sayin grabbed Vincel around the chest and hoisted him easily into the air. Vincel screamed silently, baring all of his teeth as the breath whooshed out of his lungs. Oh, wow.
I just cleaned up this cellar this morning. Perfect place for a bastard like you to spend a Merry Christmas.
Vincel stretched his neck and bent down, trying to sink his teeth into Sarin's arm. Sarin turned around and pressed Vincel's head aside.
Don't force me to gag you.
Sarin was still vainly trying to bite Sarin as he reached out to a pile of clutter and junk. Here, let me give you a hand.
No, you don't want to touch it.
Is that the smelly cloth in the kitchen? Sarin grabbed something on top of the pile of clutter and stuffed it into Vincel's mouth. Vincel's eyes went wide as he began to shake his head, trying to spit it out. From its color and texture, it looks like Vincel had one of Sarin's unwashed socks in his mouth. He's right, I don't want to touch that. I can smell it from here. Sarin slung Vincel over his shoulder and walked past us. Solar covered her nose with a handkerchief. I started to feel sorry for Vincel having something like that in his mouth, unable to escape the smell. Must be torturing him right now. Well, he fucked around and he found out. The others left the attic after Sarin and Vincel. I sat by Nox's bed, clutching his unconscious tail in my hand. Something is wrong.
What? I believe I took the physical examination part seriously.
No, the motive. Motive? But he refused to explain his actions. That's a bit strange, but the thing is, he also admitted committing the crime. What's in it for him if the murderer isn't him? Sure, some merchants would betray their own mothers if they stood to gain a profit, but I can't think of any compensation that could make Vincel plead guilty on Christmas. No, there's something that bothers me. I will think about it. Thrivey exhaled and relaxed. If there's nothing
else to do in the attic, let's go downstairs. I've been waiting for that Christmas feast.
Speaking of which... what?
Mr. Detective?
Are you okay? What just happened?
You suddenly fell backwards. Fortunately, you were on the bed, otherwise it would have hurt.
I'm fine. You must be starving. Can you still go downstairs? Go enjoy your stew. Maybe. I'll try. I slowly stood up with elegant support, dragging my weak legs down the stairs. The aroma of stew seemed to linger in the corridor, although I knew it was just pure imagination. The stew must be stone cold after such a long time. Even with the tail Even the tail of the broth would form a creamy layer of fat on the surface. The scent seemed to become stronger, but there was no sign of stew on the table.
You came at just the right time.
Sayin brought a pot of steaming stew from the kitchen.
The others weren't in the mood for stew and returned to their rooms after having bread and cold meat. I was worried that no one would eat my stew.
Gimme, gimme, gimme! I love Roman.
Just a second.
Sarin poured 2 bowls of stew and then ladled a large portion into my bowl with almost all the meat and surprisingly little broth. Actually,
Have all you want, I can't finish this.
I prefer the broth more. Thanks. I bowed my head and devoured my stew. After being warmed up, the meat was almost torn apart by the heat. The muscle fibers were slightly separated and the fibers on the outer edge were almost peeled. I'm so hungry. The broth was also much thicker than usual. I was too hungry to be picky. I just wanted to fill my stomach quickly. After 3 bowls of stew, I stopped eating, licked my lips, and looked around. Elegant was still slowly lapping the broth with her tongue. The spoon on the table was left unused. Sarin didn't seem to be very satisfied by his work. He ate half a bowl and put it down with a sigh.
Excuse me, I need to take some up to the 2 in the attic while it's still hot. Please enjoy yourselves. I also need to repair the letter later.
Sarin reached into his pocket and put a dagger in my hand.
Here, I found this on Vincent. Keep an eye on it.
Sarin went upstairs with a bowl of stew in each hand. I began to wonder how he would climb up the ladder.
You say you're on vacation, and yet you come across one case after another. You are quite a workaholic.
Don't act like I'm enjoying this.
I thank you.
Roman, let's talk.
What?
In private.
Ines glanced at Elegant, who was still sitting next to me.
Enjoy yourselves. I think I shall return to my room.
Elegant walked upstairs, but I felt she would be eavesdropping upstairs.
I hate to do this, but could you pay me back for some of the money I lent you?
What?
I didn't exactly plan to stay here this long. Now my money is running out.
Right. I still got some of my payment from my case. First rare, okay?
Maybe a little more. I know I usually don't push this hard, but
1.5, take it or leave it.
Alright. Can you break it down into 105 cents for me?
Ines took a large handful of copper coins from me and stuffed them into his pocket.
Really sorry for asking you to pay me back in this situation.
It's okay, everyone has difficulties sometimes. I waved my hand and went upstairs.
I did not expect you to be so wealthy.
Are you trying to make a joke?
How should I know?
Shop for a while? You really don't have any other clothes, do you?
If I did, would I be dressed like this?
Elegant leaned on the handrail of the staircase and rolled her eyes. So, pick up any clues for your investigation here?
Same as yours, nothing. The opportunity is for me to sneak away without being noticed off you, so I've yet to have the chance to search thoroughly.
I wonder.
Speak.
Is there anything you can let me know?
Well, I suspect one of the noble brothers may still be alive.
Weren't they both killed?
They were just buried under the debris, although no one has heard from them after that. And if a noble above the rank of baron is found to be corrupt, then the punishment is. If there was definitive proof, they would be deprived of all their titles, property, and fortunes, and the crown would cut off the pinky of their right hand.
Damn, pinky?
Crown does not tolerate corruption among its nobles.
So there's a chance they're still alive somewhere.
Indeed.
Is that relevant to your investigation?
Probably not, but I think it might be related to the identity of my client.
I thought you said you don't care about anything except money.
That is true, but I do get curious from time to time.
You're weird. Elegance shrugged and turned back to her room. I guess I should get some sleep. Considering I just had 3 bowls of stew, I should sleep well. I took off my boots and crawled under the quilt, pulled the sheets up over my stomach, and tried to fall asleep. Well, you really brought some booze here. Of course I did. I don't care how fine that stuff is, set it aside for now. After all, we have more important matters to tend to first. A drink first won't hurt. Well, if you insist. Cheers. I thought you would fail me. Do you really think I'm as weak as I look? I just thought I'm not good enough for you. Impossible. Come on. Let me feel your temperature. Just my temperature? You don't need to feel more than just that? All in due time, my darling. Oh, I'm really interested because I'm like putting people into that different section and seeing what's going on in my brain. But that was interesting. Oh, okay then. Okay then. Alright. That was an interesting trial. I still want to know what the motive was. Maybe we'll figure that out a little further. But if you like what you see, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you can see my content in the future. Also, while you're here, if you have any game suggestions or you just want to say hi, leave it down in the comment section below. I'm DC Hyena, and I'll catch y'all in the next vid.